What's going on, good people? It's Rich here, joined by the good brother Spike Lou. What's going on, Lou?
What up, though? Good to be here.
Thank
Good to see y'all.
Absolutely, man. Definitely, man. Listen. I told you earlier, it's a busy day for me. I've been traveling. I've been up since 3 a.m.
hmm
Eastern Standard Time. I'm currently in Mountain Standard Time.
Mm.
Um, but man, I'll tell you what, even with all the ripping and running, man, I sound like an old person ripping and running. Even with all that, man, one of the things I've been excited about is recording with my dog Lou. Um, we got the content for this week for another episode of Back of the Bing, and I've been thinking about it the whole time, man. I'm really excited to get into this
Oh man,
conversation. But before
I
we
was
do
so
get
excited.
started,
I was so excited to make this list. I just
yeah,
had fun even coming up with the full list.
yeah, we'll talk briefly about that because that list got crazy.
Yeah.
It went from something little it went from
It
something
went from like
16
12 to
names to
16.
yeah in the 60s real quick. But before we get
Yeah.
started, we obviously have to pay homage to our brother Mo. He gave Lou and myself the green light to let y'all know this
Bright
is
and
the
early this
last.
morning.
Bright and
Bright
early
and
this
early.
morning, man. I think he's ready. I think he's ready to get back. He's chomping at the bits,
He'll be
especially
back.
because he was involved with today's episode, even though he's not going to be on air. But he was involved with the conversations that Spike and myself were having, and I think he's ready. So Mo did give us permission to let y'all know he will be back next week. So for the meantime, this will be the last episode of Back of the Bing. We've told y'all from the beginning of this we're gonna have more content, so that will be coming. This whole bracket style, everything else, but Mo will be back so we can wrap up season 4. Go ahead, Lou.
Yep. And what that means, MO coming back, tell your friends to stop listening because this wasn't what they wanted to hear. They're here for the episode breakdown. Tell them come back next week, calling all cars, right? Is that where we
Yeah,
at?
calling our cars. I think we got
Calling
calling
all
our cars,
cars
Eloise,
and
and Whitecaps.
Whitecaps. So we got 3 more episodes left in season 4, and then we'll figure out what we're gonna do about with the usual break. Maybe we'll work right through that. Just got to see how you brothers are feeling. But 3 more episodes left in season 4. When Mo come back, we resume our regularly scheduled programming for breaking down each episode of The Sopranos.
Absolutely, man. Speaking of, I told y'all I was traveling, so I'm in Phoenix, Arizona right now. And I was telling Lou, man, you would love it out here. Just I don't know how many of y'all know Spike's in the golf. Big golfer, man. Phoenix has some of the most beautiful golf courses you could think of.
Facts.
Perfect weather for me.
Facts.
I'm a
How I
fall
feel out there,
guy.
pause.
Thank you. It's 70, about 75, man. It's perfect for
Oh, that's
me.
perfect.
I'm a fall guy, but I'm not leaves on the ground fall. I like it for the fits, like, but I don't like the weather. I'm a start of football
Mm.
season fall guy. That's
Mm.
75-degree weather. Like I can wear a hoodie without a jacket, that type of
Mm-hmm.
shit. That's what I'm here for. And
That's
that's
me.
what Phoenix feels like right now. Don't get it twisted. If you are here in the July months, June months, you can fry egg on the ground. It's super
Mm.
hot. I always tell people don't think about moving out here until you come out here during the summer months. It is the desert, so let's not get
Mm.
that twisted. But in relation to Sopranos, if you're not into golf or don't know much about golf, I'm sure you have heard of the Wasteland or Waste Management
Waste
Tournament.
management. Yep. Yep.
And obviously, I call it the Tony Soprano Tournament because or invitational because of what he did for a profession. But that is one of the biggest party slash shit shows that you could ever
Yes.
imagine in a professional sporting event.
Facts.
If you even if you aren't into golf, you should make it a bucket list item maybe to come out here for the Waste Management Invitational or tournament, whatever they call it, because it is a sight to see. This last year was insane. They had to
The
shut it
social
down, all
media
types of shit.
pictures was crazy
Yeah,
this
man.
last year. It was insane.
One of my dogs was in there, man. He said they just started letting people in for free because the crowd was too crazy. They was
Mm.
giving people drinks for free, all types of stuff because they couldn't control it. And it turned into one of those events. But
Insane. Well, I seen some crazy pictures, man.
yeah, man. But I know y'all not here for golf talk. Y'all are here for Back of the Bing. This week's episode, we're going to build on a conversation we had. We had a listener write in and say, hey, you guys should do some kind of bracket style. And we played with the idea of actually having a bracket this episode, and then it got way too deep. We don't want to give you half-ass content. We want to take our time and really give you the proper anti-hero bracket that we plan on. So we decided to just name our top anti-heroes. They're not necessarily, and this is television, not film. And they're not necessarily a ranking like 1 through 20. Lou's gonna give 10, I'm gonna give 10. And the premise is Tony Soprano is the best anti-hero of all time. I think that's unanimous. I don't think any of us, as far as myself, Spike, or Mo, would argue that point. I don't think a lot of people who love prestigious television would argue that point either. So we're working under the premise that he's number one. Who would be the next 20 to go after him. And then, like I said, we're going to build this whole bracket where we have seedings, get our 1 seeds in order, 2 seeds, so on and so forth. But just a little bit of back history. If you're not familiar with what an anti-hero is or what makes a character an anti-hero, there are a variety of traits that make an anti-hero despite their negative characteristics. They have noble intentions. So that's something that's really important to differentiate.
Yes.
They do have what they, the classic quote, the road to hell is paved with great intentions. Like, yes, they might be headed that way, but they really meant and they believed in their cause and what they were doing. They weren't trying to harm anybody other than the people that they felt were harming others. And that's
Yes.
this weird moral code that you live into, and that's what makes them the anti-hero. Examples of anti-heroes, obviously Tony Soprano. I don't know about you, Spike. You can get into it here, but I have him number one because of the show. The writing of Sopranos kind of by default made Tony Soprano number one because they did with the character what no other show had really done as far as peeling back those layers and those complexities and not just using it as a fad, but sticking with it for, I say, 7 seasons, 6A, 6B. So 7 total seasons, 86 episodes, to where we knew Tony in and out. We've said it before, Sopranos, these characters are like friends. They're so well developed and they're so in depth, and we know about them. We know their ticks, we know their faults, we know their strengths, the whole nine. I assume Tony's your number one. I guess we should start there. Is he number one? And if so, what makes him number one for you?
Yeah, Tony is number one for me. And it's because there is this fight with you to be like, well, I'm rooting for such a bad person, but you always want things to work out for him. You're looking for Tony to win. And I think that's the epitome of what an anti-hero is. As
Mm-hmm.
some of these people would get through on a list, even though they may have ultimately been anti-heroes, there comes a point where you like, I don't even really like this dude. I know
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be rooting for him or whatnot, but he's doing a lot of questionable shit, and it could have went the other way. I never really felt that way with Tony. Tony never really jumped the shark for me through and through from wire to wire. The reason that I have Tony as number one is because you never really quite like jumped off the bus. Like he
Yeah.
always kept you engaged enough. He was almost there was enough Tony Sopranoisms for you to be like, I still fuck with him though. Like I could see why he done that.
Yeah.
And that's when you start to
Absolutely.
lose support if you're an anti-hero. If us as the viewer starts to say, I don't really see why he done that. And I don't think you had
Nah.
too many of those moments with Tony.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Like I said, character breakdown is just so important for him because we understand why he's doing what he does, which makes us reason more. It's almost like your homeboy, like to be on trash, but I'm gonna ride for him because I understand him. I know why he did that, even though I disagree with
Yep.
the action itself. So that's
Yep.
a great point.
That's a good
Is
point.
an anti-hero a villain?
That's the
No.
question people need to, before we get into it, we need to really help people understand that.
Yeah, man. So we mentioned earlier, anti-heroes can have some negative qualities, but they do have good intentions, which often causes the reader, the watcher, the listener to root for them. They root for that
Yeah.
character. Spike, you just mentioned something, and I kind of ranked mine, or not ranked, but through my anti-heroes based off how much I was rooting for them versus how
Mm-hmm.
much I liked them. It's easy to kind of
Mm.
like somebody and really question, like, I shouldn't even like this dude. I don't know why I like this person, but I kind of do. I kind of fuck with him a little
I
bit.
fuck
Like,
with you, yeah.
like fuck him, but fuck him. Like I said that
Yeah.
about Jamie Lannister before, even before he kind of became
Perfect
a
example.
favorite. Like when he was still ain't shit, we knew he wasn't shit. I was like,
I
the
still felt
comments,
him
his
though.
person,
Yeah. I
his
still kind of got where he was
personality,
coming from.
his
Yeah.
comments, his morals, when you look at things from his perspective, he's standing on
Like,
business. So
I'm
I
here
get
for my
it.
family. Yeah. And I love
Exactly.
my sister, nigga. Like, I don't give a fuck about none of that other shit.
Exactly. That's a perfect example. However, there's people on the list that we talked about, there's 60 plus names that I felt like, nah, they ain't even anti-hero. They straight up villains. Like everybody knows about our affinity for The Wire. Marlo Stanfield is a straight up villain. Like there
Mm.
is no anti-hero in him.
Really? You think so?
Oh, absolutely. Marlo's a villain, bruh. Marlo is an absolute 100% villain. One of the best villains ever. Like I like him. He
Ooh, that's
I
good.
want Marlo to get everything that he wants. Like I'm not he ain't shit. I root for him, but that's because I'm probably sick. I'm sick and twisted.
That's what make the Wire so good. Cause
Yeah, but
I could see where you say that, but then I could go back to where you say I'm rooting. Like I always rooted for Marlon. I don't know
I
why the fuck
always
you
root for
say that.
Marlo. Don't get it twisted.
Yeah,
I
I was
always,
always rooting for him.
always root for
Yeah,
Marlo.
I guess you could say. I could see where you say that.
But that nigga
Another
had
good
no
example.
noble shit.
My bad.
He had nothing noble
Yeah,
about him. The most noble thing he did was get
fair,
them niggas school money.
fair. That's fair. That is fair. What I would say another a good example for me was Gus Fring. Like
Mm,
you can like the villain. I love that character. Like I thought that was one of the best villains there was, but people
hmm.
confuse Gus because they like him as an anti-hero.
Yeah.
And that just not the case.
Nah. He's absolutely he's 100% a villain. You know who's a sneaky villain? More on the
Hmm.
lighthearted side because of the show and its lighthearted nature. You might not think of it.
Hmm.
Straight up villain. George Costanza is a fucking villain, bro. George
I didn't get that.
Costanza
I
is
didn't
a
get what y'all
George
said. I didn't even
Costanza
get
is
him
a
as an
villain.
anti-hero. Really? Tell me
He's a
more
villain,
about that.
bro.
Tell me, like,
There's nothing.
well, I guess
Let's
now that I'm
you
thinking about it, rooting for your
let's
wife to die so you
yeah,
can
like
get,
he just wasn't. George Costanza is the dude you've known since elementary school, and you happen to be in your 30s and 40s, and you still cool with him. Maybe
yeah,
not even because y'all still that close, but you just happen to be in the same city and y'all live in the same building. By proximity, I've known dude for so long. Like we've been tight for this long. We still gonna hang
man,
out.
that's
But
crazy.
by all accounts, he's just a not shit person. Like, and it's funny because he do funny shit. That's what makes us draw. He on so much
Yeah,
trash that we kind of root for him. Like you on
that's
so much
facts.
bogus shit. This nigga showed up. He wanted to see how little work he could do. You know what I'm saying? That episode where he was under the desk and shit.
Yeah,
He
he
had
was
the
hiding.
episode, the it's not you, it's me episode. Like his whole premise about with women, like he dogged old girl for trying to break up
Yeah,
with him.
man. It's,
Like he just doesn't do
and he was
anything
finna
with
do
the
this.
best intention. He doesn't do anything with the best intention, man.
You
George Costanza is
convinced
a
me,
villain,
man.
but I fuck with
You
him. I
convinced
fuck
me,
with him.
man. That is a good one. Cause he on here listed as anti-hero. Damn,
And
that's
what's
what's up.
crazy is, and you might have a chance to dispute me. We'll get into it when we name our people, because I got somebody on this list that you can almost say the same thing about. But we'll get into
Okay.
it when we get there. We'll get into it when we
One
get
more I
there.
wanted to
So,
visit while we were there, Game of Thrones fans. For me, it was Tywin Lannister. I almost want to put him as an anti-hero, but I'm leaning towards villain too, to be fair. Like that
even
would anti-hero for me, not the little one, the daddy. I'm talking about the dad.
oh yeah, Ty was a villain, bro.
See that, but I liked him so much, and it was like what you said. I got where he was coming from. All y'all is out here bullshitting with my name, and I'm trying to keep this shit going. Sort of
Yeah,
like Marlo, my name is my name, but all y'all
yeah.
out here playing. Y'all fucking each other, brother and sister. This little nigga imp, he ain't never gonna have kids.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all literally talking about my name being done. So I gotta do everything that I need to do to keep the family line going. And if that means being a little evil, then I gotta be that. But I get
Um,
what people would say he the villain though. He was an
Ty was one.
anti-hero.
Ty was one of the best Game of Thrones characters that doesn't get
Yeah.
mentioned enough.
He is
When you think about, and we got to have some kind of conversation about that at some point about looking at things. These shows are created, and usually they make a character the avatar, where we're looking through their point of view, or the writing leans us in a certain direction of who to root for.
yep.
Um, as far as good versus evil, a lot of shows, like we mentioned, The Wire, they're not that specific. The good guys per se aren't necessarily doing good things. The bad guys, you see the reasoning behind why they're doing it. So is it really that bad? But Game of Thrones and TV in general, man, if we get a chance to look at everybody's perspective, if this show was written for us to believe in Tywin as the protagonist, because there is a world where that happens,
You could see where he was coming from.
you can see where he's coming from, and you can see how everybody else got him fucked up. The
Yes,
twins,
100%.
Tyrion,
Everybody.
Winterfell, all y'all got me fucked up. So it's just all about that
The
perspective.
Rose Queen, all of them. Yeah.
It's a very interesting line, and that's the power of writing. And that's why we love these shows. That's why we sit here and spend however many weeks, 86 weeks in total, plus content, extra content, to talk about the Sopranos in long form, 2.5, 3 hours, because we appreciate the work and the writing and the thoughts that was put in to make these characters alive. So we
Facts.
love this shit, man. We love this
Oh, one
shit.
off. One more. Because this
Yeah,
is
go
something to
ahead.
look at. This is Clay Davis.
Clay Davis is an anti-hero. if for nothing else, Spike, if for nothing else, for his speech on the stand in season 5,
Yeah,
that
bodied it,
speech
bodied
alone,
it. Yes,
I think the I forget who it was that said they turned Clay Davis into Martin Luther King Jr. when
it
he was
was
up there on the stand.
Daniels, wasn't it?
And one of them, I don't think it was Daniels. I can't remember who said it, but one of they was pissed.
I mean, not Daniels, but Lester. It was Lester.
I don't
It
even think
wasn't
it was a
Lester.
cop. I
Damn.
don't know who it was, man. We got to go back and revisit. But yeah, yeah. But yeah, before we get into this list, anti-hero, I just want to read this real quick. An anti-hero is a narrative protagonist who lacks the qualities of a conventional hero. They may lack the strong morals, courage, or selflessness that we associate with heroes. Anti-heroes often feel rejected by society and veer down a self-destructive path that results in isolation or death. Over the years, anti hero characters have become one of the most popular types of story protagonists in television. Don Draper, Tony Soprano, and in film, Michael Corleone, Daniel Plainview. I thought that was very important, mainly because they may lack the strong morals, courage, or selflessness that we associate with heroes, but they feel rejected by society and veer down a self destructive path that results in isolation or death. If that's not Tony Soprano, I don't know who is. And I think
Yeah, exactly.
a lot of the characters on this list, they have those similar traits, man. They're just kind of have you seen American Fiction, Lou?
I have not.
You have not? Okay, there's a moment where Sterling K. Brown's character is talking to Jeffrey Wright's character. They're brothers in the movie. Um, and Sterling K. Brown character tells him, people want to love you. Like, let them love all of you. And that's what I thought
Mm.
of when I think about anti-heroes. Like they're hard to love all of them, like because they have these great traits and you love them and they might be your boy, your people's, but there's something about them. They
They
just
need
can't
to
get
know
out
the
of their
rest
own
of it
way.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, man, they just can't stay out of their own way. So let's go ahead and get into things. Tony Soprano is number one. Remember, we're not ranking these; we're just throwing names out. We're gonna have a list of 20 total names. Excuse me. So Spike Lou, I went first last week, man. You ain't gonna get me
Yeah.
again. Go ahead and
I was gonna throw it on you again.
go ahead and drop the first name for us.
Okay. Since I'm going first, and I think this one is fairly not a lot of conversation will go around this, and maybe some people will disagree with me, and maybe a lot of people haven't seen this because this was before even anti-heroes were. I don't even think they knew what they were doing
Are
with this
you
show and making this.
hold on before you name it? What year are we talking? What decade? Are we in the
Yeah,
90s or 70s?
70s.
I know you're talking. I know you about to pick.
You know, I was gonna start with.
I
I
know
think this
exactly
is
who you
the
about to start with. He the OG. He's the
yeah.
first
This is
person
the
that you should.
OG.
He's the
This
first
is
person
where it should start.
you shouldn't like him, but you like him. You have no
But you
reason to
do.
like this dude, but you do.
You find some reason to be like, oh, damn, I kind of fuck with him. Even some of the shit was racist, bigotry, misogynistic. As a viewer, and I'm talking about, man, Rich, I was 13, 14, 15 looking at the reruns of this. And
Hmm.
I should have hated this dude. Growing up in
Absolutely.
the 90s, being the person that I was, like outside, gold teeth, like rap music. This should have been one of the least favorite people ever on TV for me, but it wasn't. Like I could
Hmm.
always be like, nah, I kind of get where you coming from, though. Like I get it. I get it. And if I had to name a moment that stuck out to me the most, uh, you guys please go look up this episode. It's one of the funniest moments. He was stuck in the basement.
I guess you. Hold
He
on,
got
my fault. I guess we should name who we talking about.
Archie Bunker.
Yeah,
I was gonna go to the whole story, but it's Archie
my fault.
Bunker,
My
All in the
fault.
Family, 1969. No, it's cool. Archie Bunker is my first one on the list. Uh, I wanted to get that one out there. I think they were way ahead of their time of how they framed him as a character, had us like him. Um, I'm not sure if the other old person on this list will make, or excuse me, that's on here will make your list, but it derived off immediately to another character that was black that was just like him. If we get to him, we do, we will. If we don't, we don't. But what I would say with Archie, what made me really have to change and look at him as a anti-hero type character, one episode he got stuck in their basement and he thought he was gonna die down there, so he's praying and he hoping God help him. I don't know if you've seen this episode, Rich, but
Nah.
he thinking God gonna help him, right? And he started saying this prayer. He's like, God, if you hear me, just say something. And at the same time, when he says that, one of his, I think it was a neighbor or somebody, he was black.
Mm-hmm.
And he, as soon as he says, God, if you can hear me, please say something, the black guy goes, Archie. And for a split second, Archie thought God was black and was talking to him. Bro, that shit was the funniest shit that I seen in TV for that time. So
Oh
my
man.
number one is Archie Bunker, dude.
I'm not mad at that at all. Like I said, that's one of those historical picks. Please go back if you're not familiar with All in the Family. Please go back and watch that. Spawned another show that Spike mentioned. Norman Lear, who we just lost at Norman Lear was like 102. How old was Norman Lear? Um,
He
he
was
just
102 when he
passed.
died.
Yeah, just passed recently, man. The brainchild of a lot of classic television shows, um, especially ones that talked about social and um, I don't want to say political, but you know, those type of
Yeah,
class and
political.
race and all that kind of stuff. Really dove into it. Archie Bunker is a great choice. Great choice.
Yes.
That's just the
Who you got,
power,
Rich?
real quick. That's just the
Oh, okay.
power of being able, if you spend enough time with anybody, you're gonna find some redeeming qualities.
Yeah.
No matter how
That's
much you
why
disagree, how much you don't like, I like them. You might never be friends, but you're gonna find some points you be like, all right, man, I can't even hate on them. I get where you're coming from.
yep. You're gonna see the similarity. That's why racism is such a like you like eh. But
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
go ahead.
Um, I'm trying to I'm trying to figure out how I want to describe this person. I don't know if this person is like outside of Tony, my favorite anti-hero, or if they were just
Mm,
my favorite anti-hero to root for. I got to think about that. We'll think about that as we go deeper into this bracket and really ranking them. But I think this person will be a one seed for me.
mm-hmm.
Arya Stark.
Mm.
Arya
Break that down.
Stark. Arya Stark. If you are a Game of Thrones fan, and I think part of it is because there's so many characters in that show, it helps you realize who you really care about because you don't get a ton. There might be an episode or two where you don't get any scenes with a character. There might be one
Yeah.
scene throughout 2 or 3 episodes, and that's it. So when you really look forward to their storyline, like the faceless man, all that whole storyline, Arya becoming Arya, being that one, like really like Arya's whole storyline, her development and her growth and her mindset, like that, telling the North remembers. I mean, I'm not fucking with y'all. Like as long as I'm around, shit ain't sweet.
Yeah. Yeah.
You shouldn't. She
Even
went.
up to the end when she was talking about spoiler alert here, I'm going to kill the queen. Like it wasn't no like ain't no pussyfooting or like I got these skills now. I'm finna go kill Cersei. It's like she had me fucked
Yeah,
up. She had my family fucked up. I'm finna go take care of this.
it's because, and I guess the main reason before we get into you throw the ball back in your court, it's because we saw her go from a reckless child. We saw her in season one wanting to be that, being laughed at for being one of the girls and wanting to fight in the army, to her kind of throwing her fits and really not knowing how to harness her skills or having the patience to really learn what she needs to do. She wants to be this person, but she doesn't have the patience to go through the ranks to ultimately the discipline that she shows. And she is a stone cold killer.
Kill her. And that's
And
what
her morals, man, her intention, like she's not playing around. Arya, I love people when they say they're gonna do something, they're gonna do it. And Arya was the definition of that. Like, if I tell you
facts.
I'm coming to get you, I'm coming to get you. Like, I don't care how much time passed. You can count on that like the sun coming up. I'm coming back at some point.
I think it speaks to the show because my immediate thought when you said that was, damn, is Arya enough of a bad part? Does she have enough dark side to be an anti-hero? But we talking about her killing a whole family, multiple people for like just randomly because you got me fucked up. So it's crazy that I even that's how good Game of Thrones is in the building of her. Because I'm thinking in my head, oh, that's little Arya Stark. Like they made her do this. But now
Mm-hmm.
she was just as vindictive as any other one of these people on this list.
Now, yeah, the only difference with her is going again to the writing and knowing her full story. Everything that she does, we understand why she's doing it. Like
Absolutely.
she's not, nobody's ever
Absolutely.
saying like you out of pocket.
Yeah.
There's some moments where she out of pocket, but they're not big moments. They're not like life or death, tilt the scale moments. They're just she owns some shit, but we get it.
Yeah.
Who you got
I think
next?
I'm gonna go with the low hanging fruit here. Now, I really just want to know your opinion, and if you guys, we want to hear your feedback and commentary on this. So this is one of the ones that I really want to know what other people think. I hate this nigga. I
I know.
hate this nigga
I know where you're
guts.
going.
You know who I'm
I
talking
know.
about from
I know
Back to the
exactly where you're
Basics.
going there. Yeah, absolutely.
Um, but it wasn't like this on the first time around. It took a rewatch or two for me to be like, oh, he wasn't shit ever. But the way that they presented it, like he was an anti-hero, like he was fighting for his family, like he was doing it because he had cancer, the first time around, it hit. And you're like, oh man, I just hope he pulled through. But then you look at it on the second time around, nigga got his brother-in-law killed. He killed a perfectly good plug for no fucking reason other than him wanting to be the boss. He the reason the little kid got killed. Motherfucker,
Mm-hmm.
he let an airplane crash
Mm-hmm.
because he wanted a bitch out of Jesse's life. And this is, of course, y'all know who I'm talking about, Walter White from Breaking Bad. I hate this nigga, bro. But I think
Kill
they
Jesse
did their
girl.
job. Huh? Yeah, kill let her die.
Let her
And
die.
then
Yeah, yeah.
that in turn made the plane crash because her dad was doing that was great writing, by the way. The way they tied that
Incredible.
shit up right there, oh, that was amazing. Just showing you how much it showed you how much of a monster that Walter was, and it showed how much repercussion that this lifestyle that he thought, oh, I'm just gonna be cooking meth because I know how to cook meth and I'm a chemist. The repercussions outside of that lifestyle, Breaking Bad did a wonderful job of that. I'm taking Walter White here because again, I feel like they did a great job the first time around. As a new watcher, you're like, oh man, well, I kind of feel sorry for him. But if you look at it two, three times and go back, you see from the very beginning he was a piece of shit, but perfectly done by the writers here.
Yeah, well said. I'm not a fan of Walter either, just for those reasons. I think we had a conversation off air not too long ago about that. Um, Breaking Bad is one of the best first watches you can ever have.
Mm.
One of the best first watches. Not so much afterwards because you do see the whole story and your perspective changes, and you really don't like Walter, man. He's a selfish, arrogant prick, and he doesn't
Yeah,
care about anybody but himself. And everything that you thought he was doing it for, he wasn't. Um, when you're having
thanks.
that first watch. So yeah, I'm not a fan of Walter, but you can't. He's on the Mount Rushmore of anti-heroes for
Oh,
sure.
absolutely,
Just for that. Another
absolutely.
show, by the way, that took me a long time because those first I think season one had 6 episodes, seven
Eight
episodes, man.
episodes.
8 episodes, man. It took 5 or 6 for me to really get committed. Like the
Yeah.
Tuco, the episode when he took I forget what it was, like the little cut, the rock and threw it on the ground, had that shit blow up. That was the episode when I was like, all right, bet.
Yep.
But until
Yep.
then, I couldn't get past it, man. But man,
Because it
once you
wasn't no
get past
pull.
that,
There was a pull when you figure out, oh, he's smart enough to get out of situations. Like this ain't
yeah.
just some regular school teacher who decided to cook meth. He also knows how to do the MacGyver type shit too. Then you're like, oh, okay, now I see. I
Mm-hmm.
understand 1,000,000% what you said.
But man, once it starts going, it goes. Like there's no skips. No skips,
Yeah,
man. 6 disc. For me, low hanging fruit. I'm not even gonna spend a ton of time on it because we talk about this show all the time on Good Earners. Um, I don't know how much we've quoted him per se, but one of the most quotable characters, one of the most famous quotes in television history, to the point where the NBA and people started using it in their advertising. Um, Spike and myself's favorite show, The Wire. Um, the best anti-hero on that show is by far Omar Little. Um, Come at the King, best not miss. Like I said, that's
best
one of
not
those lines
miss.
that just, yeah, man, a man must have a code, all types of stuff. One of the most unique characters ever written. I remember how big of a deal it was in regards to his sexuality. And
Yeah,
being there's I always laugh because in season 3, I forget Brother Muzon's what was Brother Muzon's dude's name? The big bald dude. Lamar.
Lamar,
Yeah, the one
Lamar.
Lamar. Um, but I remember at the end of all they shit in their business, man, this nigga Lamar just in the distance, just gay ass gangsters. Like that shit just it was
Oh
so, and I
shit.
mean, obviously, man, we got love for everybody, but if you go back to that time, how society wasn't ready for a character like that, and people were mad, like people were upset, like I'm mad that Omar is Robin, like I can't. People wrote into HBO and said, this gay dude will be robbing these thugs and these gangsters. They're like, nah, bro. Like, what are you talking about? Like, so
It's based
it,
off a true story, nigga.
exactly, man. So it's just really funny how society works. But that's easily one of the best characters ever written in
Oh,
television
facts.
history. No, you know he's not a good guy, but you rooting for him every single time. He knows how to play the system. He's smarter than what society gives him credit for. Which shows in the courtroom scene, one of my favorite scenes, one of the best TV scenes in history, in my opinion, and uh, just the way he's able to move, man, and just get around. And in a city like Baltimore, that's not that big, and cause so much havoc, and you still root for him, and you want him to. We're not gonna spoil anything, but um, he made his exit, man. He had his exit plan, and you just wish things stayed how they stayed. But Omar
Yeah,
Little,
facts.
that goes without saying, man.
It's great pull right there. I 100%. When I remember first seeing this and being like, this was before we got so desensitized to this being on TV. But I remember the first seeing this and like, why'd they do this? But it did add some depth to that character. Just his sexuality and how he carried himself and the fear that he still put in people. So yeah, that is an amazing pick.
Yeah.
Next for me, staying in that same lane, I guess you could say, this dude, like this is one of the first Netflix original shows, and I remember staying in that same lane.
Hey man, nah, I'm laughing because every single one of your picks before you even said it, I know exactly who you about to say.
Yeah. This
Now,
this this should
I'm sorry, man. Niggas share the same
go ahead.
brain. That shit crazy. Niggas share the same brain, man.
That's hilarious. This shouldn't have been as good as it was. I didn't think I wasn't into political shows before this, but after this, I picked up West Wing. West Wing, easily one of my favorite shows now. But this one, House of Cards, Frank Underwood.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, his wife not on here. You could arguably put her on there as well, Claire Underwood.
Mm-hmm.
But Frank was a beast in the sense of I liked how they broke the third wall and they would talk to us as viewers every now and again. He would kind of let you in into the shenanigans. And I would never forget the moment when I was thinking, oh, this show is one of the best shows I've seen, is when he pushed the chick in front of the subway.
Seasons. That's how
Spoiler alert.
they started the season
Season
that
two,
way.
episode 9, right?
Episode one. That's how they started
That
the
was episode
season.
1 of season 2.
Because I remember she was
That
such a
was
huge character,
that
and they got
was
rid of her.
amazing. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't believe that happened. That was one of those where you were watching and you like, oh, what? Let me run that back real quick because that couldn't have happened. Like what did I miss in the conversation? And I just remember rooting for him up until his untimely demise in that show because of the stuff that happened in the real world where he couldn't be on there anymore. But they did a great job of making Claire just as bad, maybe even worse than he was once he was gone. But Frank Underwood, man, he was a beast. Frank Underwood, House of Cards is my next one.
House of Cards was one of the opposite of Breaking Bad. The very first scene of House of Cards, when he choked that dog out, I was in.
Mm,
I didn't really care what else the show was about. I was in because if you got a character doing this shit and
yeah.
calmly doing it and explaining why he's doing it, that's one of those that the very first Netflix. I think Orange is the New Black was the
Orange is
first
the New
one,
Black in
and then
this.
House of
Yep.
Cards was right after this. These are the
Yep.
first two, and this had everything shook, and it came out of nowhere. This is
It
when
did. You
these are
were
when
like, wait a sec.
streaming
What now?
because streaming
Netflix got a show?
services exactly
Yeah.
streaming services and original series were a new thing. And for it to be that good, it was like, what the fuck? And Frank Underwood just became a thing.
Facts. The
Yeah,
little knock,
man.
the double tap.
Yeah.
That was all. Yeah, the signature shit.
Oh, I forgot about that. Damn. Hell yeah, man. Great pool. Great pool. So my next choice, I'm going to go with I mean, it's a personal choice, but if you've seen the show, you 100% agree. Spike, I know you have recently started it. Um, Listen, when this show was running, and to this day he still is. He's still one of my favorite TV characters of all time. But when it was running, it was hands down my favorite at that time. Um, Easily one of my favorite characters to root for. I don't even know the right description for him, so I'm just gonna say Jax Teller, Sons of Anarchy. Um,
Mm.
I try to find a way to describe that show because I don't think you would put it in your prestige. So it's not prestige television as far as like your
Not
Succession,
quite.
your Sopranos, your Wires, even
But
your
it's
Game of
it's
Thrones,
it's
but it's not but it's
It's like
not Power.
Prison Break. Yeah, it's not Power, but still,
It's
it's like
not that. It's in
Prison
the
Break,
middle.
Lost, like that level.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it might get somewhere in that category. Like it's right that tier right underneath. Because
yeah.
there's some really, really good moments and shocking moments and just those what you look for as a fan of a show. And there's also some moments that are a little bit, when I say Power, I've always called Power a soap opera. Um, outside of the first two seasons, it
Yeah.
started turning into a soap opera. Even the music, even the backdrop music started to become soap opera. And for those who would love Power, I love it too, but it is a soap opera. Let's not get it twisted. There's a lot of shit that just is unrealistic and can't happen. So that's what I say when I say that Power element. There are some things in Sunday Anarchy where you're like, that's really fucking convenient. Um, that you don't see in these prestigious television shows. But Jax Teller,
Mm.
hands down, by far, one of the best television characters. Somebody you want on your side in good and bad, like a hell of a friend. Also, somebody you don't want to cross. He did some evil shit in that show.
Mm.
Even if you want to debate if the people deserved it, and I'm talking about people that are in the Sopranos were friends of his.
Mm.
He has his reasons, but his character is so layered and complex, and there's so many secrets that are being hidden from him. And he starts to unravel
Yeah.
all this stuff and really find out who he is and what
I'm
his real
starting to
story
learn that.
is.
Yeah, I'm starting to see how it's going to play
Yeah,
out.
man.
I just started season 2.
Okay, then got you. Yeah, man.
Season 2, episode 1, and I'm kind
It's
of getting what you picking. I'm putting up
it's
what
an
you picking up what you putting down.
it's an incredible show, man. Jax Teller is one of those ones for me, and Sons of Anarchy is also up there with Sopranos as far as one of those funny racist television shows, man. It's got some good racist humor in it, man. It's just silly.
Some racist
Uh,
shit be funny, man. I saw
some
that on
shit.
Twitter the other day. It's just it was it was a Chinese people. They were trying. It was some Chinese people. They were trying to sell Jordans, and one of them had a Kanye mask on. Like it looked like Kanye West. They still had the Asian hands and shit. It was hilarious, man. I have to see you the clip of it. But yeah, some
Here's
racist
an
shit be
example.
funny.
You ain't got to this part, Spike, but here's an example of some racism in Sons of Anarchy. One of the seasons, one of the plugs, like one of their business partners or somebody was they ran a porn site. Like they like porn studio and all that stuff. Um, and they did deals with this group called the Niners, which is a black gang and
The
like
black
stuff like
gang.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. They did stuff with the Niners, man. And one season, the Niners pulled up to the studio and he said something about, man, I didn't know they were shooting 12 inches of slave. And I'm just like, what the fuck, bro? Hey man, just shit like that they would throw in there. I'm
Oh
like, bro, these niggas ain't
shit,
shit,
man.
man. And big
That's
pause on that, by the
hilarious,
way.
man.
Big pause. But
Thanks.
what you got?
Here go one maybe from left field. And the reason that I say that, you ain't gonna guess this one before I say it till I get
Okay.
into it. The reason that I say that because I was watching the dialogue about this character. I stopped watching the show and people hated this little nigga. And you know,
I was always on his scene. I'm
really,
documented. I'm documented on Twitter. When everybody hated
really,
him, I'm documented
he was
saying, that's
fucking
my
with him.
nigga. That's my nigga.
People hated this little nigga from the social media outlog, but then I watched it. I caught up. I was like, okay, that ain't. I don't see why niggas just hate him. I understand that with him getting his sister like killed or whatnot, you maybe could blame him for that. But even
How
when the
you
spinoff and his own show came, the more that I looked at it, I'm like, nah, I fuck with this nigga. He get money, he fucking
listen,
bitches. What could you
Lou,
not like about? He's
I
smart,
always I always ask the same question and nobody could give me an answer. How you hate him but love his pops?
like his dad.
How
Same
you hate
person.
him but love his pops? They're the same people.
But y'all that
It
ain't
don't
picked
make
up yet,
sense.
it's Tyreek St. Patrick. Tyreek St. Patrick, season 1 of Power, book 2. I think is it called Power book 2 or is it just
Yeah,
book 2?
Power Book 2 Ghost.
Yeah, but yeah, this I fuck with Tariq, man. And it took the spin off and him being in college. I like the way that he can cut it on and off, the way he fooled kind of like the administrative people. Being smart enough to get away, well, being smart enough, one, to be in the rooms at that prestigious school that he goes to and being able to talk through that stuff, but also having enough street sense to be in a room with Mary J. Blige and I can't even remember her son's name. Having enough
Um,
street sense to navigate all of that shit to Kane. Was it
mm-hmm.
Kane? Yeah.
Kane. Yep.
I'm super impressed by Tariq, man. Like I fuck with Tariq. Maybe even more so than Ghost. Tariq a solid little nigga to me, man.
I ain't mad at that at all. I'm not mad at that at all. I just want to proudly say I've been on the Tariq
Mm,
bandwagon for a minute. When everybody hated Tariq, I was like, y'all are tripping. And then now I got my redemption tour going on because now everybody love him.
yeah.
My next one, I struggle because maybe you could help me out. I don't know if he's an anti-hero or a villain.
Okay.
I know how he ended, but I don't know if everybody looks at it that way because you root for him the whole time. You root for him the entire series, but it became very clear at the end he was a villain. Very, very clear. We talked about when I read that description about falling in that path of your own self destruction and
Yeah.
isolation. My goodness, this character exemplified that because he built his empire not only his smarts but on the foundation of family. He had people very close to him running operations. It came to a point where that split and greed and jealousy got the best of everyone. As they say, man, if you want to destroy a house, man, you start from the inside. Or an empire, you start from the inside. And it was really, I'll share my thoughts. I mean, I guess I'll say my thoughts on how I felt about the ending for the character. I guess it was fitting, but it's hard to see my mans go out like that. Um, I want to know if you think that if is Franklin Saint an anti-hero or is he a villain?
Mm. Hmm. He an
Because
anti-hero.
he starts out
He's
anti-hero, but like I said, at the end, it's so obvious he's a villain, and it's like, damn, where do I
yeah.
put him?
I think he's an anti-hero in the sense of it's like what we said. I felt everything that he did, with the exception of few. I may would have done some things differently, but I still get it. I
Mm-hmm.
still get the character in the show doing it. In real life, I may have felt differently, but the character in the show, I see it. I'm like, okay, yeah, I get that. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I think he's a very good actually pick. He's
got
a
you.
really good pick in the sense of that.
Yeah, I struggle with him, man. So who you got next?
That was a really good one right there. Man, there's so many names on this list that I want to
It's a
go
lot of
with.
names to go through, man.
Oh man, it's a lot of names here. Next, we got to show the females some love here, man. Get back, make sure they ain't overlooked on our list. This was one of my favorites, man. Like I may have watched this around the same time that I watched The Sopranos. And I just couldn't believe the way that they were portraying the soccer mom, the suburban soccer mom.
Mm,
Like I couldn't believe,
I got beef with this
like
show.
really, I can't wait to hear this
They,
because this
they
is one
did.
of my
They did.
favorites. Now at the end, this show completely shit the bed after maybe 5 or 6 seasons. Like some of the storylines was crazy. That what they did with Shane, the kid, was insane.
I've got to give it another
Uh,
chance because I stopped. There's one moment in particular that happened that made me stop watching, and it was
I want to
early
hear that.
on. It
I
was
want to hear
early
that.
on.
Nancy Bott went weeds. First
Hmm
4 seasons, man, solid as can be, doing what she had to do for her kids. Husband died of cancer, trying to figure it out. So she started selling weed, man. If y'all not familiar with weeds, it's on Hulu. It may still be on Netflix,
I think
but
it was
yeah,
originally a Showtime show, if I'm not
Showtime
mistaken.
was originally where it was, absolutely. But I wanted to make sure that I show her some love. Nancy Botwin is definitely one of my favorite anti-heroes. What was your beef with it?
It's going to sound petty, and I was young when I was watching it, so it's definitely worth a rewatch or me going back to finish it up. But when they kill U-Turn, I just thought that was a direction that the show didn't need to take. The method in which
But
he
how did he
died,
die? How did he die all of a
man, he
sudden?
was in the woods on some shit and had a heart attack or some dumb shit. It was just lazy, and it was just like that's one of my favorite characters in the show.
Oh yeah, she fucked
One
a
of my favorite
U-turn
characters in
too.
the show. Yeah, she was fucking U-Turn. He had this bogus
Yeah.
ass heart attack and shit, and it was just
That's
in
fun.
real
That's
life. I
funny.
think he had some kind of contractual obligation. I
Yeah.
think he was on another show and they had to kill that character off. But man, I wish they did it a little bit better. And I was just that was one of those times when I was watching everything, so I was like, man, I'll go to something else. I ain't got time for this shit.
Yeah.
But I
That makes
know
sense.
that to what you said, the what am I about to say? The ending they said was terrible.
Oh my
Similar
God, bro.
to
Not even
yeah,
just the ending. Like the last maybe 2 seasons was like, what the fuck am I watching? Like what is this? Like it ain't even the
that's
same show no more.
That's why I always say, man, the great shows, not the good ones, the great ones know when
More
to end.
seasons. They know when to
They know
stop.
when
Yep.
to end, man. They know when their story's told. That is a great pick. If you look up any anti-hero list, she's going to be on there. So if you
It's a
haven't
hard
watched
one.
Weeds, it's definitely don't let my opinion sway because that's a personal beef that I have with the show. Spike said it. It's a great show. Um,
Yes.
from everything I watched, I just personally got upset at that part. All right.
You want to do a recap? Where we at now? Like five?
You're at five. Let me do one more to get at five, and then
Okay.
we'll do a recap. And then I'll also name a couple people that I haven't watched the show. Well, actually, I won't. We'll wait until the end.
Okay.
Because you might name, so I don't want to step on anything. So my fifth, this is going to be a personal choice as well. We're going to move to network TV for a second. One of those first network television characters that I felt really understood me, and I understood him. I got a sense of humor. This show was on during my high school years when I was at the height of my assholeness and dickheadness. And this television character exemplified that in a field where you shouldn't have to put up with it, but you did because he was so much smarter than everyone else. And with that being said, I'm going to go with Dr. What's his first name? Um, my fault. Let me get
House.
back to my list. Yes, it's House. I'm trying to think of his first Gregory. Dr. Gregory
Gregory House.
House.
Yeah.
Dr. Gregory House, man. It's not a show that's gonna you like listen, hospital shows have their own lane and their own genre. Like the people that watch Grey's Anatomy just sit there and watch all 10,000 episodes of Grey's, ER. It's a different twist on that. It's still a hospital show, but the way that House is, he goes about his business and has no regard for people. You just think he's this angry old dude, even though he's not that old. But I love that show. I love that character. I love how he portrayed that. And at the end of the day, he still cared about making sure people lived. But he wasn't going to sugarcoat the bullshit either. Like if you were going to die, he's going to say you're going to die.
His
Like let
consults
this,
were the best.
bro, he would tell people straight, let him die, like let it go. You've done everything you can, like that. Doctors, and that's what you want. That's what you expect from a doctor. I'm going to do everything I can to save this patient. You know, at some point you've done everything you could. Like part of the job is making sure you come to peace with it, letting these people know so they can prepare and stop bullshit. Stop giving them false hope. Like that's a theme that came across a lot. Don't give these people false hope. It's over.
Yep.
Like, and that's part of it. You don't imagine the average person can't do that. We can't fathom just nah, this is what I signed up for. I'm gonna dig and dig and dig and nah, bro, it's a wrap. But that character was just one of those first ones that I was just all right, man. I
That's a
rock
good
with
one.
dude. I rock with
That
dude.
was a good
So,
one. You ain't
with
never
that
seen
being,
the personality, as we always tell people. That was the reason that I liked that show, because he was such an asshole, and I felt like I feel like I could relate to him.
yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Another character. He's not an anti-hero. It's just a show that came. A lot of people didn't see it. I just want to throw it out there. It's almost like a put on for on deck when y'all do it. But House of Lies, not House of Lies. Excuse me, I'm tripping. Not House of Lies. Lie to Me with
Oh, the
Tim
main dude
Roth.
in that. I like
Tim
the main
Roth.
dude in it.
Yeah, Tim Roth. Not
Yeah,
necessarily the anti-hero. I'm just a show in general.
yeah.
It's a show in
I'm
general. If you
familiar.
haven't seen the
It's worth
show Lie to
watching.
Me, it's interesting just because the main character he can read people's body language and tell if they lying, and they build the
I've
stories
seen
around
the
that.
pilot. I've seen the
Yeah,
pilot in the first like two episodes, but then I just kind of fell out of practice with it.
that's my lane. If you're gonna give me standard television, give me a twist that makes it interesting, and that's what that show does. And it's good writing on it. Like I said, it's not gonna blow you away. You're not gonna sit there and binge all the seasons and all the episodes at once, but it is a good show. It's very creative. So with that being said, let's give a rundown real quick. We had five apiece. We'll do five more. Spike, you have chosen Archie Bunker, Walter White, Francis, Tariq, and Nancy Botwin. Francis is
Francis
Francis
Underwood
Underwood.
from
Francis
Yep.
Underwood. My picks: Arya Stark, Omar Little, Jax Teller, Franklin Saint, Dr. Gregory House. With
Mm,
that being said, Spike, it's on
that's a
you.
solid list
It's a
right
solid
there.
ass list, man.
Man.
That's
All
a
right.
solid ass list.
Where we gonna go next with this? I'm playing it off the dome, Rich, from the list that we made on the
Let's
sixth.
do it,
I
man.
really
Listen,
just
that's why we ain't
yeah,
ranking them. That's why we ain't ranking them.
facts. That's why we go
Hey,
back
this
and
was
rank
this was
them
this was
later.
gonna make it interesting.
If my next one that I see on here that really sticks out to me that I feel like I gotta mention, this not only was one of my favorite anti-heroes, this is one of my favorite characters, period. I'm not sure if I thought a lot more people watched this show than they did. because when it was on, more people talked about it. But now that I'm asking people, have they seen it and they familiar, they're like, I ain't never really finished it
I
or I ain't
wonder
watch it.
if you about to. I wonder if you thinking about the show I'm thinking of because I didn't watch this show, but this character is constantly mentioned like he should be on the Mount Rushmore of anti-heroes, and I'm very curious to see if the show, if it's two words and has starts with the same letter.
2 words. I want to know what you're thinking, but no, this is one
Okay,
word.
all right, never mind.
It's Bobby Axelrod. Bobby Axelrod. Did you watch Billions?
Listen, you want to? So let me say something real quick, Spike. Every anti-hero, I should have mentioned this at the beginning. For me personally,
Yeah.
every anti-hero has a moment when you
Yes.
like, there's no more line anymore. I'm rocking with this dude. And for
Yes.
me, it was a season when it might have been episode one, but there's a moment when they have a hearing and he says, "What's the point of having fuck you moment if you fuck you money if
Because
you never
you'll
get a
never
chance
say
to say
fuck
fuck
you.
you?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's my type of nigga right there.
That's
That's
it.
my type of
That's
nigga
it,
right there."
man.
And ever
I
since then,
love
Bobby
Bobby.
Axelrod was my guy.
That's my nigga, man. Like
Mm-hmm.
in the sense of like the quote that you just said sums it up perfectly. Like I didn't work this fucking hard for you guys to be able to tell me what to do. Yeah, the odds may be stacked against me. Yeah, you would advise me not to do it, but guess what? You don't got the type of money that I got. Thank you for your participation, but I'm gonna make the decision on my own. And what I really loved about him too, he fucked with his people. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you show that you were loyal to him and like you willing to ride, I'm not gonna let you leave you hanging high and dry. That was one of the biggest things for me with Bobby Axelrod because I got this much money, I don't have to be that way.
You know
But
what's,
like every season through and through, he always impressed me. Like that's one of my
bruh?
favorite. He probably is on my
You
personal Mount Rushmore.
you know what I love about that show? Um, that's another show that quoted The Wire too. I think The Wiles
Mhm.
was talking one day and she said these are our corner stringers. But
Yeah,
to your point about covering your people and looking out for your people, it just shows you how much what money can actually buy. People think of
yes,
money in billions as far as like I can buy whatever I want, and they think about material things. I can buy a jet, I can buy the biggest house, I can do this and that. Nah, money buys influence. It buys
yes,
connections. There was a scene or a moment in that show, early seasons, where one of the people that worked at his was it a hedge fund or whatever it was,
yeah. Here's one.
um, took a fucking automatic weapon and was shooting at deers and shit. And this nigga had the whole police department damn near cover it up, made sure they brought, you know what I mean, took care of the whole
Yeah, I
situation.
remember that storyline. Yeah,
And it's just like, damn, like the fact that he could pull this off was insane.
facts,
And then you
facts.
brought in the whole Taylor, the Taylor character, everything, man. That show was up there. And Paul Giamatti, I've always said he's one of my favorite actors anyway. Um, he
The
just
job that
bodies a
he
role.
does,
The
the
twists and
job that he does
turns.
in this man, and like people, like it does have a lull because of I don't know if it was the writer's strike or what was going on, but maybe later on in it, it definitely falls off. But you're talking about fantastic seasons of TV. That
Hmm.
first season, that first season of Billions, oh man, it's up there. It's up there with whatever you want to measure it with as far as great seasons of TV.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact, man. The twists and turns. Tara from
What
Sons
was
of
the show that you
Anarchy.
were thinking about? What was the show that you were thinking about?
All right, so I'm gonna mention this, and I'm gonna put him on the list, even though I've never
Yeah.
seen the show. I know people out there might even be thinking, "How come y'all ain't named him yet?" So
Uh-huh.
the word I said, two words, same letter, Mad Men. I've never seen Mad Men,
Yeah,
but I know
see that
people.
there. People probably
Everyone
hired us
says
about this.
Don Draper. I'm gonna put him out of there just from word of mouth respect.
Yes.
That's
I
a
watched
character that
one
I've.
season. I watched one season and I was just
Yeah,
like, I couldn't do it. I could not
I
do it.
didn't. I didn't watch it at all. It just didn't seem like my speed. I know it was in that. I don't know if it was on the same time as Breaking Bad or which one came
Yeah.
first because they both were on
And
AMC
around the same time. Mhm.
because that's when the AMC
I
kind
just
of had shit
yeah.
on lock. You know what I
Yep.
mean? So I just
It's
never got
just
into
not it
Mad
wasn't
Men.
interesting. Yeah, it wasn't interesting enough for me. But Don Draper
But
was a good character, but I never
yeah,
really
I'm
got
gonna put
into it
him
for me.
on the list because I know he's gonna be in there.
Yes.
It might be enough for me to watch a highlight reel of Don Draper and maybe see
Right.
some of his best moments to see why people loved him. So that's gonna be my pick right now. I don't have too much more to say because I've never watched it, but out of respect, of how revered he is by the public, he's on my list. Bobby Axelrod was a hell of a pick, Spike.
Yes, but it's
Hell of a pick. Man, for real, if
I was
y'all not
looking
hip to
I was
Billions,
looking up and down and I had to say, like, oh, I gotta say him. Like he has to be
listen,
mentioned in this
there's a
episode.
speech, there's a speech, man, where this family needed his help and he wanted to
Oh, the
buy the
little the
building.
black guy, the black family.
No,
Oh,
no,
okay,
no. This is the family that he used to caddy for. He used to caddy for the
okay,
dad.
gotcha. Yeah.
He had them all in the room about the check and what he was gonna pay them for. They agreed on something, but then he told this story about how his dad played him. So this is actually what I'm gonna pay you. Like it's, bruh,
Hey,
just
Bobby a beast, man.
Bobby a beast, man. That's a
And
hell of a pick.
to go back to what we're talking about here in Good Earnest, the thread of him and Wendy is so
Mm-hmm.
similar to Tony and Dr. Melfi. He
Absolutely.
uses Wendy just like Tony uses Dr. Melfi, but he's not shy about it. He knows exactly. I think Tony kind of figured it out throughout the series. Bobby had Wendy there because she was that good at what she was doing, and he knew that it helped him manipulate people. As to where Tony tried to act like it was something else, but it was the same thing.
And it puts a twist
That
on it.
thread right
Because
there is great.
because the twist is but you got to add on if Dr. Melfi was married to one of the feds,
Yeah, if she
married
was
to somebody
married
because
to
that's
like,
the because there's a deeper connection
that
between the
is
two.
so true. Yeah,
So that's a very fascinating story, relationship, everything.
facts.
Um, all right, it's on you.
I thought I just did Bobby.
No,
Oh,
I
you
did John
just
Draper after that. Yep, I did John Draper after that.
okay. Damn, they came at
So
you
this is
pretty
number seven.
quick.
This is pick number seven for you.
This is number 7 for me. There's still some low hanging fruit here, but it's still some people that I want to mention. Man, you know what? This had the world in a chokehold, and I didn't want to get it, but when I started looking at it, I did get it, and I understood why people were fucking with her. I want to make sure that the proper female representation is showed to anti-heroes, and with this one, I'm gonna go with my girl from Scandal. What is her name?
Olivia Pope.
Olivia fucking Pope. Like you can, like I could easily see why a woman will watch this and be like, I hate her. I hate her guts. But I
Mm,
also could see why a woman would like her, would watch it and love her and like be motivated by her. And us as men, I can see it going either way as well. But I remember watching this. I don't even know if I finished Scandal. I can't even remember with those network shows and 22 episodes per season for 6 seasons.
yeah.
I don't even remember if I finished this, but I do remember the biggest takeaway that I had from this was how much of a beast that she was and how she colored on both sides of the line. Like, yeah, she would try to do good shit, but at the end of the day, she was sleeping with the president who was married and like all of the other things that went into her being Olivia Pope. And sometimes like people had to get the short end of the stick, and she was cool with that. She had a job to do. She was a fixer, and if you pay me to fix it, I'm going to fix it regardless of who gets the short end of the stick. I think she's one of the best TV characters that have been created, especially network television with the limitations that they have. So I'm going to go Olivia Pope.
Mm, that's dope, man. Because I think you could. I've never seen Scandal, and I've never seen How to Get Away with
Never
Murder
watched it.
or How to Get
Ooh,
Away with
you
Murder,
would
and I'm
like Scandal.
sure
I don't
I've
know if you like
heard.
How to Get Away with Murder. It's too like
I've
networky.
heard that I
But
would,
Scandal was
but
good, bro.
I heard that I would, and I'm sure that you could put Viola Davis's character from
Oh
How to
yeah,
Get Away with Murder in that conversation as well. But that's a great pick. I'm sure that's one that wouldn't get any arguments from those who watch the
yes.
show. Olivia Pope, great choice, great choice, great choice. Um, all right, let me get to my pick that I told you earlier. You might look at me and say, "Bruh, you just said the same thing about George Costanza. So how are you putting him on your list? Because he's the same, if not worse. Because if you watch this show, it's right up my alley as far as humor goes. Right up my alley. But man, he's a fascinating character to watch. He'd be a pain in the ass to be friends with. He'd really be a pain in the ass to be friends with. I mentioned George Costanza from the same world, the person that wrote the
Oh my
character of
god.
George Costanza, going with Larry David, Curb Your Enthusiasm. It goes back to the conversation we had. If you were able to look at things from the perspective, because trust me, trust and believe me, y'all, I'm Larry David in a lot of ways. When I see certain
Facts.
things, what the fuck are we
Facts.
doing? And the show is just great because they make these random creative moments. Like there's an episode where Larry was going to vote and the line was super long. So he convinced this other dude that was going to vote for somebody else to not vote so they votes can cancel out. And it ended up not working out like that. And they announced like, oh, there was one person that didn't vote. The dude, long story short, the dude lost by one vote. And they found out Larry was the person that didn't vote and shit. It's just clever shit. But his reasoning as to why he shouldn't
Oh,
vote are like those everyday American things that you look at and say, why are we doing it this way? Like, man, fuck this. Like, let's skip a corner, let's cut a line. It's perfect for the people. I've always said this. Fuck a rule. It's perfect for the people who don't follow rules or don't believe in that ideology of rules themselves. I believe in society rules, y'all. I believe in, not causing any harm or danger or putting anybody else's lives in danger because you want to be reckless. So I'm not saying rules like that, but if I'm about to go outside and if I'm gonna light up my joint, I'm gonna light up my joint. Like I don't believe in like there being a rule saying you can't do that. Like I
you
hate
can't
somebody
do
telling me you
this.
can't do that. Like what the fuck are you talking about? I
Oh
can't
my
watch me.
God. That
Like that's just
that's one of
that's
my
just a me
pet
thing.
peeves right there. Yeah,
Yeah, because like I'm like
okay.
who gonna say something? And if they do, like what? So what you gonna do about it if you
Right.
do?
What are you gonna
And I'm
do?
not even
So
saying that
exactly.
on no tough shit. I'm just saying that literally,
Nah, just like
what are
what are
you
you
going to
literally
do?
gonna do? Like
Yeah,
you
what are you
took
literally
this
gonna do?
time
You
out
gonna
to say
call the
something. Now
cops?
what you gonna do? Right.
By the time the cops get here, my shit gonna be gone. The joint gonna be out, or I'm gonna be
Right.
gone. One of the two. So I just know I'm not one of them people. And Larry David is the example of that person. The show's been on and off. This is his final season. They've said that a couple times. But obviously Larry David's up there in age. R.I.P. Richard Lewis, who just passed away. Big
Mm.
part of Curb Your Enthusiasm. But yeah, man, Larry David. If you've seen the show, you understand exactly what I was saying.
That's a good one. And this one just I don't know why this made I didn't have this on the list. I didn't even think about this until you were just talking, and it literally had nothing to do with what you were talking about. It just struck me as you were talking about it. This may be somewhat of a put on, and if you haven't seen it, I'm glad that I'm here to tell you about it and to put you on it. Netflix, Top Boy, Duchesne,
Bro.
Duchesne. I can't even think of his last name. I don't even know his last name. But the actor's name is Ashley Walters. It's based in Britain. It's like people have said it was the British version of The Wire. I wouldn't go that far, but man, is it a good ass show, and a lot of people miss it or have slept on it. And Duchesne is like I since I was thinking about it when you just said this when you were talking, I didn't know if I wanted to say Sully or Duchesne because you could go both of them. Sully probably is more of a villain than Duchesne is because Duchesne is the main protagonist in the story. But if you haven't seen Top Boy, if you heard people talk about it, you say, oh, it's Drake executive produced it and I don't think I'm going to like it. Don't listen to any of that. Go look at Top Boy, starting with Summer House, the first 4 episodes, whatever it may be. Start there because it is important. I don't think Duchesne is introduced until later. But that first season with the cop and the little boy, it matters until all the rest of the seasons, up until the last season. It just came on maybe a year ago. Top Boy is one of the best series that nobody really talks about. Duchesne is one of the best anti-heroes easily to me. Did you watch Top Boy?
Bits and pieces, not enough to really give a full opinion on it. It's still on my list of things to watch and finish. I just never got around to it. What I did watch, I did like. I just never
Oh
actually
man, it's
finished up.
so
And
good.
by the time I was ready, it was like already a few seasons in. I'm like, man, I don't feel like binging that right now. So it's on my short list of things to do. My next
You're
pick,
gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
my
It's definitely a show that you like.
my next pick, I'm not going to say too much about this pick. We'll talk about it deeper when we actually rank and give our characters some seedings. And the reason I'm not going to say much is because Spike is in the middle or just started. But I'm going to go with Vic Mackey from The Shield. He's one of the best anti-heroes out there.
I fuck
I'll
with
just say
Vic,
that
man.
plain and simply. I'll say that plain and
I'm
simply.
wrapping up
He's
season one now. I'm wrapping up
yeah,
season one now.
perfect example of somebody you know you shouldn't be rooting for, but you root for him. Like you get it. Um, Draws that lines of good and bad. Like I said, law enforcement, you see them as being good, but you get an inside look at what that life really is like, the things you got to do to kind of survive, especially when you get deeper into the fold. So I'm not gonna say much, but if you've seen the Shield, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Vic Mackey, um, that's my pick.
That's a good one. That is a really good one. In the same vein,
Hold on, so
because like you said, well,
I just
go
want to make
ahead.
sure. I just want to see how many picks you got left.
Hold on. So I got. Let's
Yeah, you
see.
got two more picks left.
Oof, damn. Mm. I'm gonna do this one in like I'm gonna use these as maybe people haven't seen them, and me saying this will make you go watch the series. I'm gonna use these
Okay.
well, at least this pick and the pick before this as that with Top Boy and Duchesne in this one, and it's so similar to Vic Mackey. Um, I watched this, man, and I cut it off the first time I watched it because it reminded me too much of The Wire. It had the same
Mm-hmm.
actors and same like people in it. It was set in
Mm-hmm.
Baltimore. But then I gave it another chance like a while later. It was like I had just finished a rewatch of The Wire when I started this, and then like I couldn't do it because it had some of the characters in it. But then after I let it breathe a little bit and went back to this, and this is one of the best limited series HBO has did. We own the city.
Mm-hmm.
What is the I can't think of the actor's name.
Oh, you talking about Berthold, John Berthold?
Oh, John
Wayne,
Bernthal. My
is his
God,
first name?
bro.
Is
Yes.
that his first name, John?
John is his Bernthal, something like that, like you said.
Yeah,
But the name of the
Berthold, John
character,
Berthold, one of my favorite
bro,
actors.
the name of the character is Wayne Jenkins. And I don't it's not doing it the right, it's not an updated version of The Wire. So don't go into it looking at it as such. It's just a story from the same town. And if you go in it looking at that, no, okay, that's why they use some of the same actors. It's an updated
I,
story from like
I
a
help you out.
similar place where we went to. Did you watch it?
All right, so we talked about this briefly. I started it, and that first episode was a little slow for me. You told me,
Yeah,
"Nah, bruh,
it
go back
is.
and watch
No,
that." You
bro.
said go back and watch that. To your point, here's a comparison I say. Think of it as a director using a cast for different movies. Spike Lee
Mm-hmm.
does it. Christopher Nolan does it. So
Tyler
to your
Perry
point,
does it.
just because you see people from The Wire in it, it's because David Simon was executive producer or
Yes,
creator,
yes,
whatever the case was. So no different than how Spike Lee will get the same characters for his films, and
yes.
Christopher Nolan will
Good
get the
point.
same character for his. That's exactly what this is. So
It
please
do
don't
not
compare it to
take
The
away from
Wire.
it.
Yeah.
This story is brilliantly told. The way that they tell this story and how it all comes together on the last episode is brilliant. You want to see Marlo, the character that plays Marlo, in another light, like completely different
Mm-hmm.
of how it was. This is the show for that. But Wayne Jenkins' character in this, man, like you know with all of your heart you should not like this dude, but you can't help yourself like nah, Wayne, that's my nigga. I fuck with Wayne. Like you cannot
Mm-hmm.
help yourself from watching this and saying that when you watch this. If y'all haven't watched We Own This City, man, please go watch that. Please, I promise you, you'll like it. If not for at least the storytelling in itself.
That's a great pick. That's a great pick. I've heard the same things. I just haven't gotten a
Oh
chance
man,
to
I
finish
can't
it.
wait
Just
till you watch this, Rich.
yeah, you
I
got
cannot
me.
wait till you watch this,
That
bro.
might be my next one, especially since it's a limited series. I can breeze through that, so that won't be no thing. So I got two more picks. You got one more pick. So I'm gonna use. And at the end of this, if there are some big names that we didn't say, um, it's probably because we didn't watch them, or they might have just lost our mind. But we'll make sure they're in the big bracket.
Or we just putting adding that to the content of when we create brackets. Like there's a lot of people that I want to get to. I just didn't have the bandwidth to do it in this 10-person platform. But yeah, we're definitely going to revisit this and hash deeper into some of the other characters because there's a lot of people that I want to talk about.
One of the more interesting characters that I've ever
You still
seen.
got two more?
Yeah, I still got two. I'm gonna pick one right
Okay, so
now.
this is your
Yeah, because I'm doing like you. I'm staying away from the obvious. I'm going to go with
mm-hmm,
those sleepers shows that you've
mm-hmm.
heard of and maybe never gave it the chance. One of these characters is um, you've seen a character in his profession. You've never seen a character with his personality in his profession. Um, and he's so good at his job, but he doesn't fit the image of what you would think this type of person is. He has different dreams and aspirations. He wants to be an actor, but he has a very, very specific skill set. Um, and the show itself is just it's funny.
I didn't think you was gonna do that.
I will say this. There's an episode of this show called Ronnie and Lily, I believe, one of the best episodes of television I've ever seen in my life. Like just one of the best
It's
from a I've never seen anything like that before. One of those type of episodes. Like on deck, you and Animal Brown were talking about the Fubu episode of Atlanta. Like
mm,
certain themes that you just never you talk about them, but you've never seen it. And this one is so left field. Like I said, Ronnie and Lily. I remember telling one of my boys, shout out to my boy Brian, he hadn't seen Barry, and I remember telling him like, hit me up when you get to Ronnie and Lily, and he said the same thing. Like, man, that was amazing. Um,
it's so surprising how good this shit is.
it's surprising how good
Like,
it is. It's
bro,
not. It shouldn't for a 30 minute because this falls under the 30 minute
yeah,
comedy. It's not really a
yes.
drama. It's really a 30
Damn
minute
near it's
comedy.
like a sitcom. And you're
It
like,
really
bro,
is.
the places they take this is amazing.
Yeah,
Even in
man.
the
But I.
last season when it was slow, but then the
Mm-hmm.
wrap up, you're like, oh wait, what they doing
Abs-
now? Yeah,
Absolutely, man. I got to go with Barry Berkman. Barry
that's a
Berkman
good
from the
one.
show Barry on HBO. Check it out if you haven't seen it. You will not be disappointed. Shout out to the Fonz, man. Henry Winkler. I know, Spike, you mentioned jumping the shark earlier. You mentioned jumping the shark earlier. History lesson. That's where that term came from. That shit
He did it.
it came from Happy Days. There was an episode of Happy Days when this show should have been wrapped up. If y'all don't remember Happy Days, do a Google search. Fonz was one of the coolest TV characters ever with the leather.
Period.
But there was an episode where Fonz was going to jump a shark, literally jump a shark. That's what the episode was centered around. And it was a two-parter. It was like one of those to be continued episodes because you had to come back the next week to see if he actually jumped the shark. So the term jumping the shark came from that is when the show got
Dang, I
so
didn't know that.
ridiculous. Yeah, when the show got so
Yeah.
ridiculous, they started doing little stunts to kind of keep their viewership up, little antics like jumping, having Fonz jump a shark.
Yeah.
So
And it's a whole website dedicated. If you guys don't know, it's a website dedicated to TV shows that have jumped the shark. So if you Google jump the shark and click on the site, it's a whole website dedicated to the shows that have jumped the shark and the exact moment that they did jump the shark. So that's pretty cool.
yeah, that's where the term, if yeah, for history buffs out there,
Man,
that term
I got
came from Happy Days.
I got so many people I want to put in this last spot, man. So
I already know who my last spot gonna be.
uh mm, I'm gonna go here because I think it would be disrespectful to
You putting the other
an
old school
anti.
dude up here?
I really wanted to, but not even the one that
I
you
feel
thought about.
disrespectful for not putting him up there, but
Let's do an honorable mention right now. Who you gonna
all
say?
right.
The old school
So
dude.
honorable mention George Jefferson.
Yes. It
George
can't do
Jefferson's got to be
you
honorable
cannot
mention.
do us as black people can't do Archie Bunker and have him on the list without mentioning George Jefferson in the same episode. So yes, I agree with you there. My honorable mention will also be Al Bundy. I grew up on Married with Children. Like that's the
Classic.
90s version. That's the 90s version of Archie Bunker. There's absolutely no reason in the world that you should like Al Bundy at all, but you
Yeah.
do. And you root for him every episode. Nigga don't feed his kids. He don't have sex with his wife. Like, this nigga work at a shoe store. There's no reason you should like this dude. But you do. You love him. I tuned. That was one of my favorite shows in the 90s. But that ain't my pick either.
Super underrated
So shout
show.
out to George. Yes. Oh, my God. Shout
Let
out
me
to
tell
Married
you
with
who.
Children, George
Let me tell you who
Jefferson,
my.
the
Let me tell
Jeffersons.
you.
Oh, yeah.
My fault. My fault. My fault. Let me
No, go
tell you
ahead.
who my. Let me tell you who my favorite character left on the list is. I'm not gonna put him as my last pick. I'm not
Mhm.
saying he's the best anti-hero, but this is probably my favorite person left that we have not named.
Okay, maybe we
And
got the
I'm
same person here.
doing a rewatch of the show right now. Ari Gold.
Oh, my God.
Ari Gold is one of my favorite TV
So I was
characters.
conflicted about this. Is he an anti-hero? Can we put him there?
Absolutely, man. Especially
He is.
because
Okay, good.
I'm on season 7. And if you're familiar with Entourage, season 7 is where everything kind of all of Ari's past sins come back to haunt him. Because man, there's moments in Entourage, and this is it was like that in real time, but also in the lens that we view society and the things that we're conditioned to be trigger words for being bad and harmful, and
Yes. Oh my
controversial.
God.
He was the king of that, and there were certain things he just let fly off, almost to the point where it was impressive. Like, how do you
Oh,
even come up with an
yeah.
insult like that?
Like, where did you even
Um,
get that from? Shout
but
out to
man, he
Louis,
was,
man, for putting up with that, man.
bruh, Lloyd. I wonder. I would love to sit down with that actor and see how he feels about the character. I feel bad. Like Lloyd said,
Oh
we'll
shit,
talk
bro.
about it another time, man. But Ari is one of my favorite characters, and
That
probably
is one
my
of my favorites.
personal, like I said, not the best, but just a personal favorite on this list that I haven't named yet or you haven't named yet. So,
Since we are
yeah.
cheating a little bit here, before I do my last one, I do want to do one of my personal favorites that I'm not going to get to name because he's not my last person. It's Hank Moody from Californication.
Hmm.
A lot of people didn't see this show. A lot of people slept on it. Oh, it's a dude from X Files. What could he possibly be doing in a dramedy? If you haven't watched Californication, bro, like this is one of him and his agent. Fuck, I can't think his name right now. The ball, like the little bald head dude that played his agent, man. Like the first 4 or 5 seasons of this Californication, it's some of the best TV that you're gonna see. Hank Moody just being a natural asshole writer, like the classic fuck a lot of bitches, but still trying to keep his main lady. Have you watched it, Rich? Have you ever seen
Oh
Californication?
yeah, yeah, man. Shout out to my boy Chaz. He got me hit to this.
It's great. It's a great show. Hank Moody is one of my
Charlie.
favorite characters.
Charlie
Charlie
was his
Runkle.
name.
Charlie
Yeah.
fucking Runkle. That's his name, man. Charlie Runkle is one of the funniest characters in TV, but Hank Moody, from an anti-hero perspective, he played it well, just nonchalant asshole, but still did the right shit sometimes enough for you to root for him. But so if I had to mention one of my favorites, like you just did, it would be Hank Moody.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
who I would feel disrespectful with not mentioning in this excuse me first round that we did was one of the shows. Again, I go back to Netflix, and this took the world by storm when it came out. As far as people like not realizing this actor being able to play this role, and I'm gonna go with Marty Bird.
Hmm.
Marty fucking Bird, bro. Like all of these characters, I look at them and be like, damn, I wish I could do that way. The way he's able to stay calm and talk himself out of situations, even though when he know he was dead wrong or a motherfucker should have killed him for the shit that had happened, but he was still able to explain himself out of that. He's one of the best that ever did it in that way. Like you look for these traits, almost like superhero traits in these people that we're speaking of. Like what can they do? Like what makes them different? What makes them that anti-hero? And for him, it was just like the calmness and how he was always able to explain and make a more convince a motherfucker like, yeah, maybe you should kill me, but here's why you shouldn't. And be able to
Hmm.
hit that home with whether it was Wendy, the cartel, the rednecks, like any of it, he was always able to explain his way out of. And I envied that so much. So I got to go with
You
Marty Bird, man.
just really quick before I get into my last pick. Um, Very interesting. That's a great pick, by the way. One thing I find interesting about that character is I think he's able to do that so well because there's part of him that doesn't fear the consequence of dying
Mm.
because of how things in his life are and kind of where they get to.
Like
Um,
if you kill me, fucking give me you giving me a
yeah,
break.
fucking anyway. Like I think I'm good enough to talk myself out of this, but I'm also at peace.
But
That's a lot of things
if you
people aren't. Yeah, people aren't at peace with the end. Like
yeah,
it's a
that's true.
lot of like you know what I
That is a
mean.
really good point.
Yeah, there's a lot
Because
of
like
people
I
that
should
aren't
have
at
he
peace.
should have been dead in the initial meeting with the cartel.
Yeah, like
Like that
one of
first
the first scenes, the first episode.
the
Yeah.
first episode, he should be dead. Like
Hmm.
your homeboy lied to you. Y'all been stealing money from me. You didn't know nothing about it. You deserve to die just because you didn't know nothing about it. And you the brains behind the operation. But you let a nigga who's a Rudy Poo steal money from me. Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, man. All right, the first episode, I remember that body falling from that high rise.
Oh yeah,
Man,
threw her
Ozark,
girlfriend
man,
over
that's a
the
great
Ozark's a
choice.
great soul, bro.
So my last pick, like I said, this isn't a ranking. This isn't in order. There are other names that we haven't said. I'm sure people thinking like, "Where's Jack Bauer?"
Mm.
There's a lot of names and stuff that we could say. I think Frank Dutton, but this last person is I'm specifically saving him from last spike because this is the first tell. I've watched a lot of TV in my life. This is the first character that really made me have to sit down and take a look in the mirror at myself and wonder if I'm fucked up or not. Because I had no reason rooting for this character at all. Um, Mo was probably listening to this and he's probably like doing Arsenio, because he knows probably where I'm about to go with this. Um, he's so compelling and he's so out of his mind. and there's no reason to like him, but you root for him every single step of the way, even though you know it's the creepiest shit ever. And I'm going with Joe Goldberg from You, another
I gotta
Netflix
watch that.
show.
Like y'all haven't convinced me to watch that.
Because Spike, because you they make it very clear
See,
that this
y'all have been
dude's
talking
fucked
about
up.
it. The frames per second people that I do the film podcast and on at Dead End, they've been talking about it. Like I just gotta see who this Joe dude is.
They make it very clear that Joe's a fucked up person. Like there's no middle line as far as the moral integrity of where you should be with this character. It should be on the side like, nah, he needs help. Like, let's stay away from him.
Yeah.
But you're drawn in and you get it. Like we talked about it all day. You get that perspective from his point of view. So now I'm in the head of a serial killer. And now I get to see why he's doing what he does. He really loves this chick. Like he really loves this woman. Like he wants to be with her. He's going about it in an absolutely creepy way, but you still root for him to get what he wants. Even though you know it's not any good for the girl, it's not any good for anybody else he comes in contact with. And I got to give it to
That's
Joe
crazy.
Goldberg, man. That's because
So that's not a. I was under the misconception that that was like a teenage girl type show.
no,
Like
this is a dude that meets a girl
I thought it
and
was like a OC type, like
nah, man. This is Joe.
Pretty Little Lies. Well, not Pretty Little Lies, but
Nah, man. Joe Go because
Gossip Girl. I thought it was like Gossip Girl.
it gives you that feel intentionally because they want to give you that. You know what? That's a perfect mix.
Mm,
Um, because they want to give you a show like that, but from the perspective of this is your all American high school guy, your all American boy next
mm,
door, but he on this type shit.
mm,
And
mm,
that's what makes it interesting because some of the music, even so in the show, they do a lot of the dialogue as his self thoughts. So he's not speaking, but there's a voiceover narration and you're in his head. And even the music that goes along with some of that narration feels very OC, feels very new 90210.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? All that stuff. But nah, man, Joe
And
is
this is
a
Netflix, right?
it's Netflix, man.
I got one question for you in that same vein before we get out of here of a name that I thought of. I'm not sure if you
You
watched this. Did you watch Euphoria?
talking about Rue?
Yeah. What do you think? Is Rue an anti-hero?
That's a great question, Spike. And I say it's a
Because
great
she
question
ain't shit. Rue
because
ain't
Rue got
shit.
yeah, but here's
But
the
you still
complexity.
like
The
you want her to
complexity is
be
she's an addict. So at what point am I putting her sickness versus her own conscious choice? Like how much is
mm,
this driven by who you are versus how much of it is driven by your addiction? And that's where I struggle with Rue. Because you're right. You rooting for Rue to get better. Um and you but you know it's probably not gonna happen. It's kind of hard to
yeah,
watch
another
sometimes. It's
tough
like a train
rewatch.
wreck.
Another tough rewatch.
Yeah, it's
I
like a
I,
train
I will
wreck.
always say that that episode where of course you've seen it. That episode where she's going through it with her moms
Yeah,
and like they doing that whole like arguing in the house like that.
yeah.
If you've been around that, that shit damn near look like a documentary. Like if you've
Somebody's
seen that play out in real life and you're familiar with that, you're like, damn, like did they have a camera in the crib? Like that shit was so realistic.
somebody said it best, and this is the perfect way to describe Euphoria if you've never seen it. There are just moments that you just want to go in that world and give these kids a hug. Like, y'all shouldn't be having to go through all this at this age, man.
Jesus
This is a
Christ.
lot. It could be a if
Thanks.
you're not in the I will say this in all seriousness if you're not if you got a lot going on in life or you're not in a good mental space, don't watch Euphoria because it
Stay away
gets
from Euphoria.
yeah, stay away from Euphoria. But if you are
Yeah.
in a space to appreciate good storytelling, good acting,
Yeah.
um, that
You
high
watch
school
Euphoria.
world, it's
You watch Euphoria, you got money in your bank account. You're doing
yeah,
well for yourself. You're not worried about your employment status.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
if you want to cut it off and go out and put your feet in the
ex-
grass, you can do that. But
yeah.
if you in a place where like I'm feeling down and just want to binge a TV show to make me feel better, do
Mm-mm.
not watch Euphoria. Do
Nah,
not.
you'd be better off listening to true crime.
Yeah.
or
Facts.
watching a true
That's a
crime
fact.
documentary where somebody gets
That is
murdered
a fact.
before you
Yeah.
watch
And you
Euphoria.
got to
And I
figure
don't
it
mean
out.
that lightly. I don't mean that lightly or
Nah,
disrespectfully, but
it
I just
speaks to
mean
how
that
well that they
seriously.
done the show. It speaks to how well they
Mm-hmm.
done that show. Like I just started rewatching that. I couldn't, and to your point, I couldn't redo season one. I
Yeah.
could not do it with the dad and the storyline. I couldn't do that. So I
It's a
just
lot of
started
shit, man.
recently. I just started recently
It's a
rewatching
lot.
season two, and even season two, and I was like, damn, man, like that is a wild ride.
It's a
That's a
lot.
wild. Euphoria is a wild ride. If
It
you
really,
up for it, then definitely check it out. But if you're not, please don't let us convince you to do it. Wait till you're
yeah,
ready.
by all means,
I just
man.
want to
But
know about Rue.
yeah, man.
Anybody
Nah,
else?
Rule's up there.
Any one more cheat that you want to get off before we got out of here? Anybody else?
Yeah, I want to pay homage to somebody who I think gets lost in the conversation. Well, real quick before I say them, since we mentioned Rue in high school, I was looking at this list and I saw Tim Riggins. Shout out to my dog Tim Riggins. Um, he might be the
Oh
best.
God, that's a movie. That's yeah.
He might be the best high school themed
Yes.
show anti-hero. I'm
Yes.
saying that without having a list in front of me, but he's on the Mount Rushmore if he's not the best.
He may be number one. No, like no doubt about
Yeah,
it. Like him and Rue might be battling for
when you
it.
think about those high school theme show or teenage theme shows, Tim Riggins is up there, man, because Tim was into a lot of shit. Tim did some shit that
Bro.
I don't even know if I could have done.
Tim was a grown ass man in high school, bro.
Yeah,
He was a grown ass man. I not envied, but I looked at his shit with admiration. Like, damn, bro, I wouldn't have been able to do that. No
yeah, man.
parents, like just a brother. Like Tim Riggins was. Shout out to him, man. Then going to play every Friday on top of that, like, stop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Get
man.
out of here.
Um, all right.
One that I'll mention that most people don't haven't watched, if we're gonna do a cheat, is Robert Ford from Westworld. That first season of Westworld. I'm not sure how many
Mm,
people watched that.
talk about a
Unfortunately,
plot twist.
bruh. Unfortunately, it's not available for streaming anymore. But do not take me lightly, people listening to Good Earners, when I say this. The first season of Westworld is one of the best seasons of TV that you will ever watch. From 1 to 10, 9, I don't know how many episodes it was. Anthony Hopkins, what's my man name? What's the black dude
Jeffrey
name?
Wright. Jeffrey Wright.
Jeffrey Wright. Like how this was formulated and set up, the plot twist in it. Like this is easily one of the best first seasons of television that's ever been done, without a
Yeah.
doubt. From the first episode to the last one, again with the plot twist and how the last episode ended, and you're like, no way. But
Mm-hmm.
I will also say that and warn you that the rest of it is complete and absolute garbage. Like it ain't
Yeah.
another good season after that, so you don't get your hopes up. But one of the best parts of that first season was you saw how many places that it could go, and you were wondering, oh damn, I wonder if they're gonna do this next season. I wonder if they're gonna do that. No, they didn't do any of it. Just enjoy that first season and get out of there if you're able to find it.
Absolutely, man. My honorable mention, my fault. I mentioned Tim Riggins just because we was talking about Root, but my honorable mention, I just want to give this person is just not. I feel like he should get credit for the modern day anti-hero. A lot of people give it to Tony Soprano, which is fair. But if you've ever seen NYPD Blue,
That was a new
Detective
one for me when
Andy,
you put that on there. I need to watch
yeah,
that.
Detective Andy
I was a Law and
Sipowicz.
Order guy.
Yeah, it's me too. But NYPD Blue was like early 90s. And he was one of those first anti-heroes where this guy's a scumbag. He's a piece of shit. He probably falls in the category where you don't like him, but you would get some understanding of why he's doing. He's not a likable person per se, but he's definitely an anti-hero, somebody you find yourself understanding. And probably one of those early versions before TV knew what to do with the anti-hero or a character like
Yeah.
him. He kind of, I'd hate to say paved the way for Tony Soprano. I don't want to say that, but I at least feel his name should be mentioned because it was like 6 years prior to Tony Soprano. And he was a great definition of an anti-hero. So
Mm.
that's all I got, man. I know we went a little bit long this episode, but
It was good though, man. I could talk about this shit all day. I love the like this style of conversation where you're naming the people and getting to bring the different shows into it. Hopefully, people are familiar with these shows that we've mentioned. Y'all will go check them out if you're not familiar. Everyone on the list is worth watching. It. Everyone is worth every one of these anti-heroes that we've mentioned. If you've not at least seen the first season of these shows, then go check them out. Um, that's it.
Definitely. Definitely, man. So Spike Lou, man, appreciate you as always. Always a pleasure being able to sit here, chop it up with you about television, not just the Sopranos. Hopefully this is a good example to everyone out there. We can really talk this TV stuff with anybody.
Yeah.
Um, we're gonna be doing more past Sopranos once we wrap this up. It's a lot of television that we can go back and kind of have a revisionist history on. I've already
Mhm.
told y'all for Culture Garden, I've got something planned for the 20th anniversary for Entourage. Um, I've been rapping to Spike Lee about that, want him a part of that, as well as one of my other boys
Facts.
who loves Entourage in and out, and a lot of other things that we've discussed and a lot of these other shows. We love to get your opinion. We love to
Yep.
get your list, please, because we want your feedback to help us with these seedings. Like I said, we're gonna have a 64 man woman bracket. We're gonna seed people 1 through 16. I think we have a good idea of who the 1 seeds are, the 2 seeds are, but when we get to those 5
Yeah.
seeds,
Three,
6
four.
seeds. Those we're gonna
That,
need help, man. There might be
yeah.
names we didn't think of.
That
I want to
five
hear
versus
about the
12 infamous matchup. The
yeah,
six,
man.
yeah, like all of those.
I want to hear those omissions. Like, I want people to hit us up and say, man, I don't, how did y'all go an hour and 40 something minutes without mentioning this
Without
person?
mentioning this person.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
want to hear all that because I know we miss people, but that's part of the conversation. We just enjoy doing that. Please remember next week, this is the last episode of Back of the Bing for a while. Next week, our dog Mo will be back. We'll be back as a trio. To quote light skinned Jermaine, man, we the big three like we started the league. So, the big three
Ah,
will be back with an episode
I love it.
breakdown, back in our
I love
bag.
it.
That's what we do. Looking at the Sopranos from the black perspective. I'm excited to get back in the show. I'm excited to start watching again. We talked about
Yeah,
that last
man.
week.
Feel like I'm
I,
yeah, feel like
I've
I'm
taken a
missing
break
something out of my
because,
life.
yeah, yeah. So I'm excited. Like I said, I'm not these next 2 episodes, I'm not the biggest fans of, but they'll be all worth it once we get to Whitecaps. Um, yeah, so that's it, man. We appreciate y'all for tuning in. Thank you. And I really sincerely, on behalf of myself, Spike and Mo, thank you for um, going on this pivot with us. I know as a
Mhm.
listener of other podcasts how difficult it can be to get used to something and to get in a rhythm. And like I said, we appreciate all y'all feedback, so we know y'all rock with it. I can't tell you how much that means to us, but I know it could be difficult for the past few weeks to be like, "Yo, I came here for this. All right, cool. I'm gonna listen
Yes.
because I'm fans, but this ain't
Thank
really what
y'all
I necessarily
for
signed
being
up
patient.
for." Thank you for being patient. Thank you for experimenting with us, spiking myself. We didn't even really do too much pre-production. We relied on our chemistry and our relationship, and as I jokingly say, it's not even jokingly how we share the same brain on a lot of things. We were able to make this contact pretty much off
Yes.
the top of our head. So excited to get Mo back in the
Yeah.
fold. Excited to bring more content to y'all. We appreciate y'all for tuning in. We'll see y'all next week. Season 4,
And
episode 11.
yeah, before we go, like if y'all want to see the heroes, if y'all want to see the villains, all of the things that you see this or you hear this and you're like, I want to hear more of that, let us know. Give us the feedback. We'll do the other types of conversations like this intertwined with what we do with Good Earners, but we just want to know what you guys are looking for, and we'll make sure that we make that happen.
100%, man. 100%. Appreciate y'all. To close it out, like the great Mo would say, don't forget about it.